What's up, Dom? Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. This is your overview video for your Obi Wan Kenobi lightsaber. It is complete and installed. So we got a Profi board version 2.2 in here. It's been updated to operating system 5.9, which is the most current right now. It uses the SA22C prop file, 2-button setup, and it even has gesture controls where you can twist it on and twist it off. Included, I will have a print off with instructions on how to operate the lightsaber. It also comes with a link to a video where I actually demonstrate all of the functions of the lightsaber. And then it has another link down here to another video where I talk about how to program the Profi board. So if you want to, add fonts or change blade styles and things like that, you can do that by following the video. And on the SD card, I've included a copy of the config file that's currently on the saber right now. So if you go changing it, make a copy of it first. That way, if you mess up, you have an original to refer back to. So we got a NeoPixel lightsaber in here, 18650 lithium-ion battery, 28mm bass speaker, the silver elite speaker from the Smuggler's Outpost. In our emitter, we have a version 3 stock NPXL connector with 16 LEDs. There's your twist off, twist on. So yeah, it's got your motion controls. The top button here towards the emitter is your power. The bottom button towards the speaker is your auxiliary. All right, so when you get this thing, you're going to want to open it up and put a battery in it and get going. So I'm going to show you how to open it up, okay? You're going to do it just like I show you, not any other different way. So you're going to start with just the pommel, right? And you'll notice the pommel does not screw on all the way. So when you're putting it back together, be mindful of that. It screws on just far enough to cover up the threading, but that's as far as it goes. And I'll talk about why here in a moment. So we'll go ahead and take the pommel off first. The reason why we do this is the pommel, the inside of the pommel is a lot bigger. On the inside, it has a bigger inner diameter. So it's not, really rubbing up against the chassis here. But this piece is a lot thinner on the inside. But before we go here, I'll show your speaker, 28mm bass speaker. I had to glue on these two rings here, these silver rings, which are spacers, which prevent the speaker from hitting and rattling the inside of the pommel, because this chassis is so long, it literally goes all the way to the inside of the pommel here. And the speaker was hitting the inside of the pommel, and we don't want it to do that. So I put spacers on, and that's why it doesn't thread all the way on. So whenever you take this part off and you unscrew it, when you get to the speaker it's kind of snug right here where the speaker is. So don't rip it off. Just when you get there, just give it a little wiggle. Just give it a little wiggle as you take it off, and it comes right off. But I went ahead and sanded the inside of this piece to be a little bigger on the inside because it was super snug going on and off. And I had to do that because this chassis, I'm going to show you in a minute, is 2 parts, and I didn't want you ripping off the back part here. But there's your crystal chamber. If you just want to quick show people your crystal chamber, you just take off those 2 pieces just like that, and the lightsaber works well this way.
I've been waiting for this day for a long time.
Your crystal will pulse for 120,000 milliseconds. I think that's like 2 minutes before it goes off. It goes into kind of like a little sleep mode. I've programmed your Profi board to do that after 2 or 3 minutes, and then it conserves power. So you can leave your battery in there for, several weeks or months at a time. As long as it still has juice, it'll be fine. But yeah. So yeah, it mimics the main blade whenever it's on, and then when it's off, it just pulses like that.
Darth Maul. Prof, get
Also, I know you wanted a chassis the color of your choke, so I went with a gold one. This is as close as to the color as I had, so I went with the gold one. All right, so now to get your chassis all the way out, because it is fully removable, and this is how you access your Profi board and your battery compartment. You have to take the chassis all the way out. So you don't just pull it out yet. There's screws that, just like your blade, push into the chassis to hold it in place, so you have chassis retention. So to get to it, you're going to pop your little lever up, which kind of loosens the clamp, and then allows you to unscrew your plunger switches and take them all the way out. Set them aside. Underneath there, you'll see your metal brass tactile switches. That's what the plungers are pushing into. See them here in a minute when I take it off. Next, you just slide off your clamp. Be careful when you do this. Take your time. You never do anything fast. You always treat this like it's super delicate. And I would say this chassis even more so, because it's two pieces instead of just one, and they're kind of like glued together. So this little hole right here and that little hole right there have set screws. It's the same size set screw as the one for your blade, so your one Allen wrench will work it all. But those are what's holding the chassis in place. It keeps it pushed up against the pins inside of here, and it keeps it from rotating. So that's why it's important to have those. You'll see once you pop it loose, you'll see your chassis kind of shoot out. So I just loosen each one a little bit. So once you take this out, you'll see way up inside there, let me get this in the light. You'll see inside there are TCSS pin connectors, and that's how your chassis is fully removable. They connect to that pad right there. So special thing about this pad, keep in mind, anytime the battery is in here, this pad has power, so you cannot touch that pad to anything metal, or you could short and fry all of your electronics. So I like to just make it a good habit to take the battery out. Anytime I do anything with a Profi board, I take the battery out, because the Profi board, when you hook it up to your computer and things like that, you do not need a battery in it, so it does not need power. So yeah, there's your little brass tactile switches. There's E6000 glue underneath of them, holding them down. E6000 is an industrial adhesive. It's kind of it's clear. It's kind of flexible, almost like a rubber, but it's strong as concrete. It's like a rubber concrete. It's pretty good stuff. And that's actually what's being used to hold your two chassis pieces together. So I designed it a lot like the white one you sent me that was damaged, and we decided to make a new one. But I still got to incorporate the clear part, as you can see here, the actual crystal chamber. You can see where the line is right there. And then it's like a puzzle piece. It goes up here, right? And then back here. So it connects. There's a lot of E6000 right there where it connects. And then there's E6000 on the bottom of the crystal chamber and on the top of the crystal chamber, kind of pulling them together like so. You also have a nice actual real quartz crystal in there with one neopixel underneath of it, and that's what illuminates the crystal. It's a real crystal. And at the bottom of it's glued in place too to the actual LED so that it won't move around. There's your white Profi board right there. It's like I said, I reprogrammed it. Config is on the SD card if you need it. So if you want to access that, again, make sure the battery's out. Get your Allen wrench, right? And all you do is just kind of pry up one of the corners. Just boop, just like that. Real nice and easy. And then from there, you can use your hand and you can see it just lifts out. You can see all the wiring underneath. I always leave a lot of extra wiring in my builds in case it needs to be worked on later. And there's room down there to leave it. So, yeah. So if you need to access your SD card, you can get it out, pop it in the computer, add fonts, then you can plug it up and do your configuration. When you're done, you just use your thumbs, use your thumbs, and just press it back down. And you take your time. You don't press super hard, super fast, but you just lightly press it back down, and it fits nice and snug inside of its little spot. And you can see it sits flush underneath. You want it to sit underneath the chassis. You don't want it to sit up too high. So then your battery compartment, right? So this leads me to this little point about your battery. So I know when we originally talked, I mentioned to you that you needed a new battery. I said you should use a PCB protected one. It prevents the batteries from shorting because lithium ion batteries are considered to be dangerous. So safety first, So anyway, But your crystal chamber here and the Profi board and the battery and the speaker and everything was just so much to cram into this one lightsaber that one of the places I had to take out some room was the battery compartment. And what I mean is, when you look at a PCB protected battery and a non-PCB protected, you can see the non-PCB protected here on the right is a bit shorter. And I needed that room to make this thing fit, which even still almost doesn't really, but we made it work. So you cannot use PCB protected batteries in here. They're too long. You have to use non-PCB protected, which these aren't just going to blow up. They're still safe. You just have to be safe with how you use them. Obviously, don't put your battery in backwards. That's the first step. The flat end of the battery is your negative. The top end, button end, is your positive, okay? And then you'll see here the negative side is the spring side, just like AA batteries. So negative goes against spring side, positive goes against the button side in there, okay? You'll see you got wires here. Your positive, negative data from your NeoPixel run down through that channel to your board. They're covered with heat shrink just to kind of keep them protected, and it helps them push down into the channel whenever you insert a battery. Now, this battery in particular, as you can see, is very ugly, and even the button head on the top of it is crushed in. This is the only non-PCB one I had laying around, so I'm not going to give you this one. I'm actually going to order you one and ship it to your house. Now, the other one you had, I definitely don't recommend it. Actually threw it away because when you use NeoPixel, you need it to be max 15 amp continuous discharge or more than 15 amps to be able to fully power NeoPixel and get those beautiful white effects. And this one actually is too. It's a Samsung battery I got from the Saber merchant. He sells some, so that's where I'm going to order it and ship it to you. Now, when you get it, it's going to be like purple or green or something. It's going to be ugly. It's going to have an ugly battery wrap on it. So what I am going to send you is some battery wraps. I'm going to send you a silver one, a black one, and a clear one. Now, the reason why I send the clear one is because underneath these, matter of fact, while I got you on video, underneath these, the battery itself is actually chrome, which looks pretty cool. So if you wanted to use a clear one, you could do that too, and it would actually look pretty cool inside the Saber. I got tons of these things, but it's actually chrome underneath there, right? So if you wanted to use the clear one, you could, but I'm sending you 3 colors. Once you put it on, all you do is use a little like a lighter or a flame or something underneath of it, or a heat gun. I just use a heat gun, and it'll melt and like stick to it'll shape to the battery and cover it like the silver one was on there before. So I'm going to send you these 3, and I'm going to order the battery separately and send it to you, and then, that way you have it. The battery will probably get there before the Saber will. But you'll have that. But yeah, it's just a forewarning. If you want to get more batteries, you can't use the PCB protected ones because they're too long. I had to just cram it all in here, and that's just how it was. But these work fine. So when you put the battery in, though, you will get a boot sound. Right? And yeah, there it is. Did I go over everything? Let me think for a second. Yeah, pad is powered. Don't put your battery in backwards. Non-PCB protected. I showed you how to lift up your Profi board, but you take your battery out before you do. The chassis here is 2 different pieces, so don't go, treat this thing like it's delicate. I mean, it's solid. That E6000 is solid. You really have to rip this thing off to get it to come off. But, you never know. Just be careful with it. Oh, you got a 28 millimeter Elite bass speaker from the Smuggler's Outpost. Yeah, this is an actual Smuggler's Outpost speaker. Best one on the market, probably. It has a little hazy stuff on it, but that's just from the super glue I used to glue those rings down. There's not actually glue on it. It's just like this haze effect that happens from super glue. But yeah, man, there it is. Super loud outside of the hilt, but this pommel doesn't have a whole lot of sound venting. going on, so it does quiet it down a bit. So I'm gonna put it back in now. Show you how to put it back in now that you got a battery in it, and I'll pop in a blade and just do a quick little demo, and then we'll call it a night. Also, I don't know if I showed this. Yeah, I showed you. Did I show you your battery charger? That's the battery charger I'm going to send you. You're also going to get your little Ziploc baggie with your Allen wrench in there, and then you're going to get 2 extra set screws, one for your blade and one for chassis retention. So if you happen to lose those, you have spares, because they are really tiny, so you never know. All right, to put this back in, again, keep in mind that pad is powered. So you're just going to line up the switches in the holes like that. You're going to insert this slowly. Don't touch nothing metal. You're going to go all the way down. Now you want to line up the switches. Now you'll notice it's spring loaded because there's those springs in there, remember? So you do want to go ahead and squeeze it down against those pins and hold it there as you screw in the set screws. Where did my Allen wrench go? All right, so you just want to tighten down one a little bit, just where you feel the chassis, and then tighten down the other. But don't tighten it down too tight, because this is just a plastic 3D printed chassis, so you don't want to crack it. And you also, if you screwed one in more than the other, then it would make your chassis, crooked. So make sure you keep that straight too. But those screws work for chassis retention, one there, one there. Now we're gonna go ahead and put on our clamp next. Line up the holes for the switches, right? And then leaving that lever open, we're gonna thread in our buttons. You can screw them all the way down once you get them in. I like to get the threading started on them both though before I tighten one all the way. These can be tricky sometimes. Take your time, don't force it. You don't want to strip them. Yeah, I got it now. So once you get them where you want them, then tighten down your clamp. Next goes on the black piece, and again you want to just kind of wiggle it around the speaker a little bit. Thread it on. And then your pummel. But remember, your pummel does not go on all the way, it just goes on enough to cover up the threading, but don't force it any more than that. Just like that. And then you're ready to rock. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera. I'm gonna put a blade in, do a little quick demo for you. Now your blade, right? Your emitter is pretty shallow, so you're gonna have to tighten up your retention screw there quite a bit to make sure your blade doesn't fly out on you. If you have one that's not sanded, I would recommend that. I have a sanded one, so it's a little bit loose. So I would say don't sand it. Also, I just got a test blade here. We looked at your blade, it looked like it was fine. Also, when you insert your blade, do not twist it, because if you twist it, you could possibly bend the pins over inside of there. So you only want to go straight in and straight out, if that makes sense. So just go straight in, no twisting. My blade's sanded down quite a bit for another saber, so I gotta tighten it up a lot. All right, let me kill the light, do a demo. So I already did all your blade styles for all of the fonts that were on here. I kept most all of them that are on here. You have all the effects in the book. You got, the audio flickers, you got the clashing, right? You got blasters, lockup, tip drag, you got stabbing, melting, you got lightning block, force effects. Swing sounds and smooth swing. Power on, power off. Some of the fonts even have tracks. So it plays background music. You can even operate the saber while it's doing that. I'll go through some of the fonts real quick, but you'll notice when you change fonts, and it's only when you change fonts, and I think it's important because it kind of is an indicator that you did that.
I'm Cal Kestis.
When you change fonts, you get a light at the base of your blade, right? That light is a passive battery monitor, and that monitor tells you the current life of your battery right now. So green means that it's fully charged. As it starts to die after some usage, it turns to yellow, and then orange, and then red. When it's red, that means your battery is just about dead, and that's when you want to charge it. You do want to fully drain your battery before you charge it to extend its longevity. And it takes about 4 hours to fully charge it, so it'll take a while.
The Force will be with you.
Rey Skywalker.
Oh, this one right here, you had a grayscale font on here, and grayscale has pretty cool blade styles, so I got that one and put it on here. So this little red dot, as you swing, travels out. Obviously my favorite, Kylo Ren. Got your dark saber on here. That's the darkness.
The Force is with you, young.
I'm Cal Kestis. The Force will be with you.
Rey Skywalker.
I am a Jedi.
I think that's all of them.
Smooth.
Ascension. Ben Solo. Empress. Dooku.
Alright, General Kenobi. So I'll go ahead and leave it on Obi Wan Kenobi, so when you have it, that's what it'll start with. You asked about that. If it switches to that default, it doesn't. There is no default. Like, it just cycles between fonts by pressing the buttons. Whatever font you leave it on, that's just what it's on. When it goes into sleep mode and then you wake it back up, it'll be on that font again. It'll always save that. Even if you change color, right? What you can do, you can rotate your blade and change color. Whatever color you lock in, that's what it'll be next time you turn the saber on. So to change it, you just change the color again. It's not hard. Anyway, so there's your lightsaber. I hope you enjoy it. Again, make sure you don't get too crazy with this pommel. I noticed while I was swinging it around, it did come loose a little bit. So do get it tight enough that it don't come loose, but don't thread it on too much. That way you don't, damage the spacers that are keeping your speaker protected from the pommel. But anyway, great lightsaber, man. I'll get this boxed up in the morning and probably get it shipped out to you tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. And then you probably should get it next week. Let me know if you got any questions.